All right. See a few lovely attendees in here. Welcome everyone for joining us into the next Playnar. So welcome to the Strawbees Playnar, where we are focusing on engineering with paper with our fellow educators. So could you tell us your names and introduce yourselves very briefly?
My name is Godwyn Morris, and I'm the director of Dazzling Discoveries. We will be telling you all about our program and our products in a couple of minutes.
And my name is Paula Frisch. I'm the assistant director of Dazzling Discoveries, and we're very excited to be here with all of you.
Wonderful, wonderful, Godwyn and Paula. So, thank you for sharing, everyone. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. I see that there's we have quite a few teachers in the US. I know that we had a few signups based in Croatia and in Sweden. So I'd really love to see and hear about where you're tuning in from, especially across the world. So this Playnar, I want to kind of share how it's structured. So this is a pretty active hands-on classroom experience where we invite you to make with us. And because we have a lot to cover today, and we will be facilitating the activities for you to follow along. So of course, if you have questions, just let us know in the chat, and we will take frequent breaks to answer some of these questions, but we also will have time for questions at the very end of the Playnar. So the last 10 minutes is reserved for, questions. And so the quick rundown is very shortly, we're gonna have Godwyn and Paula present. And then we have it's the first half of their presentation. And then in the middle, I will be doing a short hands-on demo showing strawbees and paper. And then I'm going to hand it back to them to finish off the second half of their presentation. And of course, if you're unable to create live with us, this video will be recorded and published on Strawbees Professional Learning YouTube channel and the Professional Development page. So now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Godwyn and Paula.
Okay, so let me share.
We're going
to share the screen. Okay, are we seeing that? Good?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. So my name is Paula, and I'm here with Godwyn. And we're going to tell you about, we're based in New York City, and we have 2 physical spaces, and we have 2 products that we've created. So we have a lot of different names floating around, but we are one entity, and the 2 of us, in addition to our staff, work a little bit on everything. So our physical spaces are called Dazzling Discoveries and Skill Mill NYC. Dazzling Discoveries is our younger kid STEM education center. We work with kindergarten through 5th grade, pretty much. And Skill Mill NYC is our Makerspace. So we do our teen programs and adult programs. We also do small scale manufacturing for people. And I will get into all of these. We'll show you some pictures so you can feel like you're actually visiting us. I'll get to that in just a second. And so our 2 products that we've created that we sell and do teacher trainings on are Dazzlinks, which are a cardboard building kit. And our newest edition is called Engineering with Paper. And we'll definitely get into that. That is the focus of today's program. Okay. So here's a little peek into our elementary school age space. This is Dazzling Discoveries. It's located on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City. And this was one of our camp programs. So kids come to us and we run day camp all summer and any day that school is closed during the school year. This is of course under normal conditions. Right now we're doing virtual programs. So we, in addition to our camp programs where kids come to us, during the school year, we go to schools for their after-school programs. So in New York City especially, the after-school program is very robust. And so we travel to schools and teach after school. And we've been around for about 20 years, working with kids, teaching hands-on programs. And as you'll learn, the hands-on is the focus of everything we do. Our spaces, our products, teaching people of all ages, hands-on skills. And so this is our Makerspace. We have, in the last couple of months, been making face shields, as many makerspaces have been doing. It's been a really meaningful thing we could contribute to our city, and we've been donating the face shields. I can show you another picture focused on face shields. We've been donating them to nursing homes and medical clinics, and we've made some great partnerships to get those face shields out around the city, which we all know has been much, much needed. So on to our Dazzlinks. We have been making projects with kids for 20 years, and poking holes in cardboard has turned out to be very versatile. And so we turned that into a building kit that teachers and families, so Godwyn is holding up our beams, and creating these foundational building tools that teachers and families, kids can use to make all kinds of projects. So they assemble really easily, they come apart really quickly, and they're open-ended. So our goal is to make something that teachers can use with the lessons that they're already teaching, integrate in those lessons, and make them more hands-on. And so we have these two versions. One are the beams, which are better for building structures and making weight-bearing creations, and the shapes is an assortment of flat shapes. You can make all kinds of things with both. And so this was our first product, and this is showing how the Dazzlings can be used as a foundational structure and then add all kinds of things onto it. So these were two automata that we made to honor women inventors during Women's History Month. And so you can see they're covered in paper, but it's using the cardboard as a foundational building piece. And just a little more about our kits. Again, open-ended is a big part of what we do, providing a tool for building that can be integrated into a lot of different projects. Okay, so now engineering with paper. As I mentioned, this is our newest edition, but it comes out of many, many years of doing these projects with kids. And it comes from how we teach teachers in our teacher trainings, and how we work with kids in our programs. So it is recently available, but has been tried and true by us for many, many years. And so engineering with paper are downloadable project packets. They focus on simple materials like paper, tape, scissors, things that kids already have at home, which especially now is crucial, as we all know. And we use those simple materials to explore engineering principles. And so just by cutting, folding, we teach these methods that I'm going to get into more details, and we'll do some hands-on building. But we teach that just cutting, folding, taping paper in different ways allows you to build versatile shapes and approach all kinds of challenges and help kids turn what they're imagining into a physical project. So this is our toolkit of shapes, and we've organized them by themes. So we sell our projects as project packets. We also have free downloads of projects, but the project packets are organized by themes of shapes, as you'll see on the technique page on the left side of the screen, and how those apply to content themes on the right. So our goal is that teachers like you who are teaching content, especially now teaching content that's all virtual, that having some simple ways of making shapes, physical hands-on shapes, and using those shapes in different themes. So we would use a rectangular prism in a roller coaster project, in a cityscape project, in a bridge project, in a simple machines project, and that within this toolkit of versatile shapes, there's so much you can do, and so much you can do within what you're already teaching to help bring it home for kids through the hands-on part of the process. And this is just a little more about our project packets, which focus on a particular theme. They actually have template pages to help you get started with cut and fold lines. And then they come with these instruction pages, which are the toolkit of versatile shapes that we just saw. And these are the projects that we have up so far. We're always working on new things. We're adding new free projects that really simple downloads, one page, you don't need to print them. You can follow along on the screen. So the catapult game, and we have a pepper, we call it the Pepper Harvest Challenge. It's a marble run. So those are available for download, and our other projects you'll see on our site. Okay, and so now I'm going to get into our philosophy of how and why we do what we do in our spaces, with our students, with teachers, in our teacher trainings. And all of that comes down to how do we best prepare students to approach STEM challenges. So there are so many STEM challenges online. You'll see these pictures, these are just a few, the egg drop challenge, the bridge challenge, and these provide a prompt, but they don't necessarily empower kids with the skills to know how to go about doing that most effectively. So our focus is to provide core skills to teach kids, teachers, grown-ups, families, teach everyone some core skills that they can use to then approach those challenges. And so leveling the playing field is our top priority, that kids who are doing engineering at home and kids who are not doing engineering at home are all learning the same thing in our spaces, in our classes, and then engaging in a challenge together. And so that applies both through the hands-on skills that we're teaching and also through the content that we're teaching. So I'm going to walk you through a little sample of how we structure our lessons. And we're going to be doing paper straws today. And so the paper straws and playgrounds is one way that we focus on playgrounds as a theme and use the paper straws as the building material. And I'm going to get into that in a little while. We're going to build paper straws. So right now I'm just showing you, if we were teaching you about playgrounds, we would show you pictures of playgrounds. We would have a conversation about what you see in these pictures, types of playground equipment, what kinds of actions kids do on the playground. We would, I think in this one, we would identify what shapes we see. And then, so once we've talked about playgrounds, we've shown some pictures, not assuming that everybody knows what's on a playground or everybody's seen the same playground. Then we start building. But before we start building, we again level the playing field by teaching basic skills. So the shapes on that you'll see on the left of your screen, cylinder, cylinder with flap, straight track, these come from our method of teaching techniques. These have all been, you saw them in that toolkit slide. So we would teach all together, all the kids would have their own paper, the instructor will have the paper, and all together we learn how to roll a piece of paper into a cylinder. We learn how to fold a piece of paper into a straight track. We learn that if we cut the base of the cylinder and fold those flaps out, that it makes it more stable, that it helps attach to a base piece. So this is one example with these three simple shapes. It's really two shapes, and then the cylinder with flaps is a variation. But teaching each of those, and then it's time to design and create a playground with paper shapes. So that's the general overview of how we go about our lessons, integrating the basic content and basic hands-on skills.
Can I just interject quickly on that one? I just want to explain those black zebras.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things that we do with our kids is we like to give them little toys, something as a prompt for a couple of reasons. They're building, it helps because then they're building for that thing. And also it brings in math skills. So there are a bunch of the zebras are on there, but that's just because we made that sample in our office. And in fact, what we do is we give each child a little stuffed animal or a little plastic toy, or it doesn't really matter what it is, but each child gets exactly the same item. They get to keep it. They're very inexpensive. So that's why this has got all those little zebras in it. So just an example of a prompt that we use.
And keeping it proportionate to the zebras.
Right. Yeah. Or whatever the toy is you want to build for it. So it brings in the math skills of ratio, proportion. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Okay, so this is the same concept as that other playground, but now integrating the paper straws. So again, we would teach how to roll a cylinder, how to fold the straight track, and we would teach how to make paper straws. So the wonderful thing about paper straws, and we're so excited to share them with you, we hope that you're going to be doing your hands-on part with us today. Paper straws provide a really sturdy, weight-bearing building material that you can make all kinds of structures, projects. So I'm going to show you a few examples. This is still focusing on the playground theme. And we focused on the playground theme in the Paper Straws project that's available on our website. It is a playground themed paper straw project. So paper straws are just the building material that can be used with any content theme.
And interject one thing there, and it goes well with the if you're teaching simple machines, that's really where playgrounds fits in very well in terms of the curriculum.
Okay. So here's our fun paper straw guy.
And this was made by a student.
Yeah, and so you can make characters and make the thing that those characters are interacting with. Okay, and there's our Engineering with Paper straw project. So when we do the paper straws with students, we do it all together. As I talk, I'm gonna scroll through some pictures showing the versatility of what you can do with the straws. We have kids all roll paper straws together. And then we teach them how to connect. And we'll get into that towards the end, different ways of connecting the straws. So in this picture, you'll see it's taped. They're just taped together. This is taped to the board. There was one earlier. We use paper clips a lot in our programs. Now that we're not able to be in our physical space, we're expanding, using other methods more, taping the straws together. And we'll show you, and Lindsay's also going to talk about different ways of connecting and using the strawbees to connect the straws. So here's some more projects. We use these to make structures and then turn those structures into games. So this one is showing a little, it's like a launcher, a little basketball launcher toy that the kids build a structure. They learn how to make different kinds of boxes or cones or something to catch the ball, and then they incorporate that launcher toy into it. And this is another kind of game using the paper straws to make simple structures, to build games. Okay, and this is just showing when we do it with kids, we always have the tape ready. So we use these plastic bowls. Having the tape ripped ahead of time makes a world of difference, avoids a lot of unnecessary frustration. So we always rip the tape, have students rip the tape, have it ready for when they need it. We always have, each table of kids are going to be rolling straws and sharing those straws. So it's a communal effort. Some kids will get it right away. They'll do it really quickly. Some kids will need a little more help. It's always a communal effort of making a whole bunch of straws and then doing the building. And we will, in just a minute, be making our own paper straws. So you'll see in this picture, they're using dowels. You can use pencils. You can use any narrow round. Lindsay tried using straws. You can use straws. And Godwyn, do you have anything else you want to add before we make the straws?
No, we'll make that. A tiny point that we'll get to later is that you can make axles. So you have a straw inside a wider straw. And the way you usually want to make that is whatever paper straws you make, then you use that straw to wrap paper around that to make the wider axle, and then you know it's the right size. So there's some little tricks like that. Yeah.
And that ties into the simple machines again.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're now ready to do some hands-on building. So make sure you have a few sheets of paper. Regular printer paper is fine. If it's the European size or the American size, it doesn't matter. You need scissors, you need tape, and markers are optional just to make things more colorful. But grab some tape, scissors, and a few sheets of paper, and we are ready to build. Lindsay, do you want to add anything before we start rolling?
I think it's time to rock and roll, Paula.
Okay.
Can I just say, also you can use, obviously scrap paper, it doesn't have to be fresh paper, and magazine pages work very, very well as also. So it's really almost any kind of paper. You want a little bit of a softer paper, like not the cover of the magazine, but the pages on the inside or the white paper. Some of our projects we use a manila folder type paper, and you might have noticed there are a lot of tan paper paper being used in our projects. But for this, for the straws, you definitely want the softer computer printer paper or magazine pages. Okay, ready to go.
Great. Ready, everyone? Okay, so we're going to show this as a video. It's going to take you through folding and cutting the paper in half, because we roll the straws with a half sheet of paper. So that will be first. We'll cut it in half, and then we will roll. And I've added this little photo at the bottom of the screen just to show that when we add the tape, in the video, you'll see the tape is just, we've used one piece in the middle of the paper. And it'll be clear when I show you, but that this method of putting the two pieces of tape on the ends makes the ends of the straw more sturdy. And we recommend doing it that way for most projects, but that's just a little bit different than what you'll see in the video. Okay, here we go.
Here's how to roll paper into two paper straws. Take a full sheet of paper, 11 inches this way, and you're going to want to fold it, but instead of just creasing it, it's a lot easier if you just pinch the corners, because if you crease the whole thing, it makes an edge that makes it harder to roll. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but it's definitely easier in the end. If you do fold it, it will still work, but it's a little better if you just pinch so you can see where they are, and then cut one pinch to the next so that you have two pieces of paper. And you can do this with any size paper, but this width is a pretty good one because it's shorter than the width of a pencil we're going to be using. You also then want to rip tape. You have to have the tape ripped in advance, and then you take your tape and you want to put it on the top of the paper like that, and then.
So this is the spot we're going to alter just a little bit to put the tape as you see in step number 3, with two pieces on the ends rather than one piece in the middle.
Flip it over, because this is your sticky side. You're going to just do this one piece at a time. So I'm going to smooth this one out of the way and lay this one down. And then you need a smooth pen or pencil or marker. This is our pencil. You take the pencil and you put it not at the very bottom, but a little ways up like that. And then you take the end of the paper and fold it over. Fold it over like that, and then rub in here. You see my fingers? I'm pushing in here. This makes it strongest when you roll it, and it keeps it all together. And it's definitely helpful if you get these edges lined up straight, because it will help you roll straight. And then take what you have here, and you push down a little bit to keep it going, and then push forward. And I'm pushing down and forward. And I'm rolling, 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 and I'm going to roll all the way over that tape, and that's it. There you go. And then, of course, you want to take out your pencil, and then you have your paper straw, and then go ahead and make several of these.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions? How did that go for people? So again, you can use a dowel, you can use a pencil, use straws. Is there any, I'm not seeing the chat, so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no, there are no questions in the chat. Okay. In terms of strawbees, for the strawbees to fit with them, you want to use a 1/4 inch dowel. The pencils, some pencils work. I did do a whole bunch with pencils, but they're a little bit, some pencils tend to be a little bit wider. and which means they'll be a little bit looser if you're actually going to use them with strawberries. So the 1/4 inch dowel is best. If you do use them with a pencil, what I did find that if I wrapped a little bit of tape around the ends of the strawbees, it made these a little bit thicker, and that helped. So, if you're connecting with tape or with other things, then the size of it doesn't matter. But for strawbees, 1/4 inch dowel. And we will talk about other ways of connecting in addition to strawbees. But the strawbees are definitely the best way to go. So.
And if you did just roll them, make sure you roll, you're using at least 4 so that you have a few, because we'll show you some ways of connecting them, and you can do that. You'll need 3 or 4 or more. So roll a few straws. And
right,
now,
and when you do, yeah, and then we'll go to this. When you do it with students, you want to have a lot of them. We roll them because you want to have them as a commodity. You want to have the, whoops, that's my dowels falling on the floor. We just make hundreds of them because you want to have them available for the students. It's also really great for downtime. I mean, this is all obviously classroom based, but it's great for the kids who are really good at it. Some kids are better at it or like it more than others. To have them, take 10, 15 minutes and roll some straws. And everybody, we put all the straws in the same bucket. Sometimes when the kids roll them, not every kid has got the fine motor skills, so sometimes they come out great and some are a little too loose. So when we are in a classroom, I go through and pull out the looser ones and just kind of put them on the side. But that's why we have everybody just dump them all in the same bucket. We don't want kids owning specific straws. We want everybody sharing. When they're at home, they're going to have whatever they can make. And we know they can do this at home. I've done this. We've been doing a whole bunch of Zoom lessons and using this and our other engineering techniques, and it works great for at home too.
So I have a question for both of you. Do you find that, do you actually let children pick the paper, or do you kind of set it up, or do you have like a station? How do you set it up where they can experiment with different kinds of paper in your experience?
Yeah, well, we just have lots of paper, lots of different kinds. It depends on the project. If you're trying to just teach them how to do it, and you want everybody just moving along, it's much better to have the same paper. If you're doing it as an elective or side project and you want a little more experimenting, or maybe even an after school, then you could give them different papers and let them, I would say it depends on your end goal.
Okay. And do you sometimes find, have you ever had an experience where a child brought their own paper? Do you let them know ahead of time and somebody brought paper in or had some weird experiment where maybe they used their lunch bag, or what are some interesting experiments you've found with paper or straws rolling?
Well, mostly the type of paper. There's so much paper in the world that we always have so much, but there's newspaper, which is much thinner, and it definitely makes a much weaker straw. And then there's a thicker manila folder paper, which is too thick. It doesn't roll very well. And magazine covers, which we use a lot for other projects, but not for rolling. So really, you're right. It's that challenge of finding the paper that rolls the best or easiest. So generally magazines and any kind of printer paper.
Okay.
Has been from our experience, but yeah, you can try it. But you'll see if it's too stiff, it's much harder. Cardboard, it's one time we don't use thin cardboard. It does not roll well. You want almost fabric-like material.
Yeah, and sometimes I like to mix it up. When I've done paper engineering projects in the past, I've even, purchased Astrobrite paper, the colorful, super vibrant neon paper. And I remember actually even a few times getting super thin masking tape and just laying it on the paper so you can make some interesting stripes, or even just letting kids draw, drawing their own stripes, which, unfortunately the plastic straws don't allow a lot of, most schools would probably have water washable markers for good reason, but it doesn't stay on plastic very well. So, it's unfortunate you can't do it on our regular straws, but on paper, the world's your oyster with all the materials you have. Yeah, and actually, I see that Allison is trying to make paper straws, and it looks like it turned out a little crooked because the eraser holder was wider than the rest of the pencil. So that's actually some good learning. So trying to find something to roll with that maybe is uniform throughout.
Or move it over.
Yeah, make sure the paper is more narrow so that it can fit within the wood part of the pencil and not the metal.
Got a straw instead.
And actually, when Lindsay, we were talking about this session a couple of weeks ago, Lindsay took a plastic straw and used that, and that worked well too. So if you have plastic straws, that makes for a great rolling tool.
Yeah, I've actually inserted it. I just stuck them in like this. And then what was nice was when I was rolling and I filled it up, so when I got to the end, then I just pulled it out so it didn't get lost inside, which that was kind of really clever. Even like I was very impressed with myself, actually.
Yeah, it is very important that the thing you're rolling, it's longer enough than the piece of paper that you can easily pull it out, because otherwise it will get stuck. You've tightly rolled that paper and it's not going to come out unless you have enough to pull on and make sure that you're not pulling on a marker cap that's going to pop off. So all of that is adjust the width of your paper to whatever you're rolling up.
Yeah, or loosen your rolling a little bit, or yeah, we've had times where we had to poke something thinner in to poke things out. It also depends what size paper straw you're trying to make. And we happen to love this particular size, that half of an American size, 8.5 by 11. It's just a great size. It doesn't make things too big that it's overwhelming in the room or at home, wherever it is, but it's big enough to really build something substantial. And so that's why we tend to use that. But you can do this with any size paper as long as you can get your stick out.
Exactly. You got to get that original piece out. Otherwise it gets lost.
Right.
All right. So I'll jump into my side of the presentation. Just a few slides. But actually what I really love about bringing you both into this Playnar is that, you're also teaching children autonomy over their materials, that they're creating their own construction tools, which actually that's how Strawbees was founded. It was kind of founded where we had a die cutter for teachers to use, and you can make your own connectors. So we actually have what we call a sustainability station where you can die cut and manufacture Strawbees from paper and cardboard and super thin, like really thin wood, like soft, thin woods. We've even made it out of bamboo plates, Strawbees connectors. But of course, when you're making these connectors, then having the plastic straws feels like a necessity. So, using your technique to build paper straws is a nice complement to that kind of activity that we want to focus on. And though we show that our projects, like what I have presented here is the Platonic Solids, which are some very basic geometric shapes, which is kind of like a wireframe of the shape. But of course, I want to show like that Strawbees is more than just straws in a way, that we want to actually include paper and cardboard. So on the next slide, I want to show like how we use our plastic connectors and our straws as the main construction tool. But we encourage you to really blend with paper. And we use the plastic straws because they're very lightweight and really easy to lift up. So like here I have an example of our very classic Sierpinski pyramid made of paper straws, and also the one that's made of plastic here in my hands. And I think what's really nice is that the variety of different kinds of materials offer flexibility. That paper can be super strong because you can have like, if you roll it up, you can in theory have like 20 layers. So then it becomes super strong and it changes the intention of your project. And, I also think that straws themselves, the plastic straws, are really nice because they allow flexibility and they can bend, they can handle a little bit of weight, but then also bounce back. So there's a nice blend between the two materials. And, on the next slide here, we see a lot of cardboard projects out there. And what we really want to focus on is paper, because I think that paper is even more accessible than cardboard, because sometimes finding large sheets of cardboard to build big, or when you really hope for your parents to make the big new refrigerator order, then you have massive amount of cardboard to make your own spaceship. But sometimes you have to source cardboard and it takes time, but paper is very easily accessible. And, you know, that's what I really want to share. And actually on the next slide, you'll see like a video of our little carnivorous plant. It's light sensitive, working with the paper. And I love this project because it's a nice blend of different projects, but also that paper, you know, it has a memory and it has some flexibility with the fibers that allows it to really fold and bounce in different ways. And the cardboard is very rigorous and strong, but paper kind of has the same properties as cardboard. So now I'm going to show you like a little demo with the straws that we have created with the paper straws and also the plastic connectors, and just show you a little bit of how we've combined Strawbees with paper techniques. So now I'm going to switch my camera.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop the screen share so you'll be bigger.
Thank you.
Right, and then if, for anyone who doesn't know, if you put your screen on speaker view, which is usually on the upper edge of the black Zoom screen, you'll have Lindsay as your main screen so you can see her more carefully.
See. All right. You can see my really well-loved paper cutting mat here, where I'm just going to show you a few things. So actually in the past, before I even met Paula and Godwyn, I used to do a paper engineering activity where I made paper straws, but I would actually bend them at the edges and fold them, and the ends would be super weak. So I would actually tape around them. And actually, this is how I met the inventor of Strawbees, that I was actually making paper straws at Maker Faire many years ago. And, you know, what I found is that though kids were like really enjoying building these structures, that because we were using a lot of tape, then they would tear apart. So I found that kids were kind of throwing away the structures and the projects after they were done with the engineering challenge, which was to drop heavy weights. And you know, then I wanted to actually look into alternatives where you can use Strawbee connectors to reuse the paper straw. So, you know, the plastic straws we provide, they're a nice touch of color, but they also provide a lot of, you know, flexibility and strength too, just like the paper. And with the connectors, I wanted to treat it so I can actually make them flexible. You know, just like how we make moving joints like this, it's the same thing that I'd want to apply with a paper straw here. So like this one, it's the same idea. So bringing kind of the world of Strawbees in, where we build these like structures that we have on our learning platform, learning.strawbees.com, but even applying it to paper straws and letting children even create their own colors with it. So, you know, like I actually and if you're curious how I made this straw, this is like my template that I made with paper. So I actually drew on the edge here, like just a quick design, and it's a little hard to see, but I have like pieces of tape. So I would flip it over and then roll with the paper like this, and then it would just naturally tape itself. And then what was really nice is sometimes I would just cut it in half, although it get pretty thick, so sometimes it could be a little rough on the hands. So what I find is that I try to make it so I can make, so I try to, you know, use scissors that are like have a really nice grip. So scissors like these, for example, might be a little too rigorous on small hands here, but also that they can actually just work at it and saw it apart. And so the example that I made actually was inspired by I think my camera is getting a little out of, I think I'll switch back to the other one because it's getting out of focus now, but that's okay. So I made a little playground, a little swing set using the paper straws and using the straws. So why I'm using the plastic straws here versus the paper is that, you know, I don't have like any friction. So I kind of wanted to make something that had low friction and it would allow it to act like a swing set. And I used like the paper platform as a place to actually place a little Strawbees critter that I created. So I actually just used the connectors to build a small animal and kind of test my design. So I was able to test with a cute little Strawbees critter. So, and it works pretty well. And I also like made this small slide here where like I was trying to challenge myself to use as little tape as possible so I can actually still try to save some of the pieces. So this structure and the cardboard piece, I used a little tape down here just to keep the Strawbees flat since they tend to sometimes stick out underneath cardboard. But that was like the intention. And also I wanted to make like a little bit of an environment. So this is like more on the arts and crafts side, but here I added a Strawbee connector where I poked holes in the paper and then I stuck it through the straw. And then I was able to make a small little tree that I can make as part of my playground scene here, like this. But the project that I wanted to create with the playground was also that, you know, I was kind of creating a small atmosphere where I wanted to, you know, try engineering techniques. Like I actually wanted to build something where, like, to replicate something in real life. And why I really love paper in particular is that paper kind of has a lot of autonomy on how you fold it. Like, so like the paper here, I kind of snipped, like I cut like a slot and then folded it around. So kind of like this, where I was able to use a little bit of tape, and then I was actually able to shape organically the structures, which that's like a really nice plus to paper, that you can, you know, use the material to what you're thinking. And actually you could even score the paper. So if you wanted to use like maybe the side of the scissors, like the side, and what I mean by the side is not the sharp side, but even like the edge of the scissors to score it so it has a much easier time to fold over. But, you know, that's like basically what I wanted to show in my small little demo, is kind of like my, you know, application of paper straws. So, you know, I want to now send it back over to Godwyn and Paula.
Well, I just wanted to see how you were holding up like the tree, or how do you, with Strawbees, make a perpendicular, make a vertical thing attached to a base?
Oh, you mean like how I put it here?
Yeah. So just to close up on that, I see. So you push a Strawbee through the cardboard and then attach and use the connector.
Mm-hmm. We also have these 3D printed punches that we actually offer the 3D file online in our Thingiverse. And don't worry, I will be sending a resource slide. So in case you're wanting to know all these links, we'll gather all these links after the Playyinar. So you know where to 3D print, find Dazzling Discoveries website, all that good stuff. So we use this. So we have like a slot tool here, and we also have a rounded punch. So that way we're actually able to use the slot tool to punch through cardboard, and then you can fit the Strawbee in so it doesn't flex or rotate. It just actually stays put.
Oh, that's great. We use golf tees to get a hole in cardboard, but that is fantastic. That's really good to know.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to bring this back onto the share. And okay, great. Godwyn, do you want to talk about this?
So the method Lindsay showed you is great if you color them in advance, but the kids, particularly when you're using white paper, obviously not with magazines, but with white paper or scrap paper. Remember, scrap paper, you can roll backwards, so you're using the white on the outside. Anyway, the kids colored it after the fact because the computer paper is pretty sturdy, and so it'll be able to absorb the wetness from markers and not damage them. So this was just a great picture of one of the kids had decorated all of the straws and then built with it. So we just wanted to show you that it has that possibility. And then next. Okay.
We're going through connectors.
Right. So we know that many of you do have Strawbees, and clearly that's the most versatile way for many reasons, one of which is you can reuse both the paper straws and the Strawbee connectors. But not everybody does have that, and this webinar will be available for other people who might not have Strawbees immediately. So we're just going to walk you through quickly some other techniques for connecting paper straws. I think this is the most obvious one. You can obviously tape paper together. We showed some different triangle methods because it's pretty clear how to tape two pieces together, but it might not be so obvious how to tape three or tape a three-dimensional, tape an angle. You just usually need a much longer piece of tape that you can wrap around, so you can wrap around the tips of them, or you can wrap around the edge of them. So this, you just have to experiment with it. It will work with most tape. It will work with Scotch tape. We happen to be particularly partial to masking tape. It seems to be the stickiest, but it definitely works with most sticky tapes, not electric tape, or you know what I mean by sticky. It has to be sticky enough. So anyway, that's our taping method. And we will get to a point later we're going to show you, because we also use wider straws, and taping is very useful for the wider straws. So then this method it still uses tape, but it makes a more secure connection, particularly when you're trying to attach pieces one on, not corner to corner, but in the middle of something. So you take your piece, you cut a bunch of straight flips. I actually have a big version of it here, just because it makes a good model. This also was a project for a tree, but it's the same concept where you just roll it, you cut the slits, and then fan them out. And it's also great for making that perpendicular connection, because you can tape those flaps onto a flat piece of cardboard, and it helps to sturdy it. So that's our tapes, flaps. What's next, Paula? Oh, cardboard brackets. So sometimes you need a stiffer connection, and this is literally taking a piece of cardboard, cereal box cardboard, any kind of cardboard, scoring it, folding it, and then taping that in place, and that helps to hold the pieces. Again, you still need tape. It just gives it's another way to make a secure connection. And you can ask us questions about this after we go through it, but I'm just trying to give you some samples. And then this is what we call our paperclip trick. We use this quite a lot, but we also have thousands of paper clips because we do this. You may not have paper clips, so we just keep this as an aside. Basically, you take a paper clip and open it into an L-shaped bracket, and then the loop, and you can see it in this picture, that rounded edge fits right into the paper straw. In our Engineering with Paper Straws Playground kit, it shows you how to do this technique. That's included in the instruction packets. And we find this to be very sturdy, and it does give kids a little bit more flexibility. It also means you can take them apart. Frequently, the kids will put tape over it when they're completely done, but it gives it a little more stability than just tape. What else? Oh, and this is our, we just wanted to show you one of our projects from a class that we taught about the International Space Station. And this uses the wider paper straws. And it's the same concept. You don't need to roll it around in a tube, and it does not fit with Strawbees. It's much, much wider, and usually we use a full sheet. And again, we always put the tape on the ends first. We just find with kids, having to rip tape or grab tape when they're trying to hold their rolled item closed is challenging. So we always say put the tape on first. So I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to demonstrate holding it up, but you can just take paper and roll it up, as I'm sure you know, and then you can make it any width that you need it. And so that's what we did for this project. We just used very wide tubes. And then that astronaut is sitting on an axle, a tube that's wider, going around that inner tube, and that's why it can slide back and forth. So this was part of an International Space Station lesson that we did recently.
Okay.
I love that you've added animation to the paper engineering project, especially the paper rolls. It just has so much possibility.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, the GIFs are great. Paul is an expert at that.
They're fun. They're very fun. Okay, and that's what we have to share.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So, great. We're exactly on time. So
Yes.
I just want to mention one tiny thing, because at the very beginning, Paula, everybody noticed your fabric. So Paula is actually a math mistress. If you go look at her personal Instagram account, you'll see the gorgeous things she makes. She's also been making face masks, but anyway, it came up right away, and so I just thought I'd comment on it.
I'm glad everyone noticed. It brings me joy, so I hope everyone appreciates.
Okay, Lindsay, over to you.
Yeah. May we go back to our making our faces a little bigger?
Yeah. There we go.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's see. Does anyone have any questions to ask our educators here? I see that there's been quite a bit of comments about, some of you have been trying to make straws in the background, and some of you are thinking about creating some with your students. And I'm really wondering if anyone here has experience engineering with paper with your students. I think that was a question I wrote out, and I wanted to ask that again. Like, has anybody tried to make paper rolls or paper straws? You kind of interchange the language. Has anyone tried to make paper straws with your students before, or have tried to focus a lot on paper?
Somebody asked about the younger, the age limit for, what is the younger age limit for doing this with a group of children? So we should just.
Good question.
Yeah, and I did comment on that a couple of times in the chat. So, and just to say it on the file. So the rolling the paper straw, the wide ones, that International Space Station one, we were able to do that with very young kids. And if you're making wide straws, wide tubes, that's very easy for the youngest kids, even 4-year-olds. The sturdier paper straws that we're building with, this requires some level of fine motor skill. So honestly, it's not age necessarily, as most of you know. It really is fine motor skill based. But generally, we do it with 8 and up. We have done it with high school students. We've done it with middle school students, and we've done it with elementary school kids, because you're just making the building material. It's not that this project is age-based. It's what you do with the product once you have it. So we like to say it's similar to, a bucket of strawbees. It's whatever you make with it, or a pile of Lego, or it's what you make with it. So, but the motor skills are the issue. So generally 8 and up in terms of them rolling these straws on their own. But I've had some 5-year-olds who could do it. I've had some 10-year-olds who couldn't do it. But generally that's the age in terms of building, using this particular technique. Our other projects, most of them are designed for all ages. It's folding paper. And Lindsay, what's the age for strawbees?
Basically, age is 5 and up. 5, 6 easily. Of course, there's sometimes a little bit of motor skill when it comes to doing this, like sliding the strawberry through the hole of another strawberry. That could be a little challenging, but in terms of inserting the strawberry in the straw, it doesn't seem to be too hard. Of course, when we do work with little kids, even with the paper straws, when it was a pretty snug fit, I did find that I was squeezing the mouth open because it widens a lot more. So it allows me to slide the strawberry in, just, whether it's a plastic straw or the paper straw. Like this one here, I actually pre-folded a little bit, and then it was very effortless. Of course, my first few straws were a little tight, or actually too loose. So I found that even my first few straws were not quite there when I was rolling them. But as I got, I started to get some mastery over building the paper straws, then I was able to make them tighter and then focus on this small technique here. And I see that, let's see, Christine has used file folders. So probably the manila file folders. And let's see, Janice was saying that cardboard takes up a lot of space, which that's another plus to paper engineering, that you can kind of take the cardboard, the free building experience of cardboard, and make it a lot more smaller of an experience. Of course, it might take over if you want to.
It also can be hard for kids to fold and cut cardboard. Kids' scissors often don't cut through the corrugated cardboard. So paper is, another benefit is that it's really easy for kids to work with it.
Exactly. Especially, Yeah, and Sam mentioned finding safe cutting tools. I think that's a thing we can all agree on because, you know, like especially when you're cutting cardboard, you know, hands start to hurt when you're sawing through it with scissors, especially children's scissors that are much more dull, especially after a few years of use. And, you know, that's actually why we, you know, getting a little off topic into cardboard, that's why we made this punch tool because, so this slot here, we actually designed, I'm going to take apart my slide. We actually made this so you can score through cardboard really easily this way because we wanted, actually I've done quite a few global cardboard challenges and I always see children doing the very dangerous this, and that's kind of what inspired some of the product development around this tool, that you can actually even use it to draw. Like it's a little hard to do up in the air, but I'll just do a quick demo. But like if I wanted to make a curve in the cardboard, then I can kind of draw with it without, you know, breaking through, although I push a little too hard here, but then I can, you know, fold with the cardboard this way. Although again, cardboard is a little tricky because you kind of have to shape it. It's hard to like make curves in it. Although I will say this tool, what I actually really love is when I use, actually, I'll show you a quick scoring technique. This is kind of a last minute thing and then we'll probably close it off. But I actually like to use this tool, this blunt edge to score paper. So it's really, really hard to see, but there's like a small curved line that I put in here. And then I just fold with my hands like this. And then I'm able to make like a small, like little mountain range or a valley here. It's all about paper. All right, so we have reached the end of our Playnar, and it actually went by pretty fast. Do you two think so?
Yeah, great.
Bye.
And of course,
Glad it's helpful. We
yeah,
hope that you learned something and can use it, and you can get in touch with us. Our email is info@dazzlingdiscoveries.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're happy to share ideas. As we mentioned, there are 2 free downloadable projects, and then the packets are $12 each if you're going to buy the full sets, and we're adding more. We're also happy to have ideas. If you need content, tell us, because we know how to make so many things out of paper, but we don't always know what teachers or people want to see. So we'd love to hear from you.
yes. And of course, Strawbees is also offering 25% discounts in our store, strawbees.com/store. And you can find many more wonderful project resources on learning.strawbees.com. So, and of course, any links, any mentions that we mentioned in the chat or in the Playnar, we will be following up with an email and sending out a open source Google slide with a list of links and a few activities that you can get started with building paper straws. So again, this webinar was a great one, very playful, fun, I was trying to make up a word. But it was also very much inspired by kind of the current events where we all have, maybe we don't have Strawbees, and we also have like a limited amount of materials at home, and building paper straws felt like a natural implementation. So, and we wanted to hear it from 2 wonderful educators, Paula and Godwyn. Thank you so much for spending time on your busy day in between classes to be part of the Strawbees Playnar.
Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So take care.